Hello, good morning and good evening, depending on where you are. It was a little bit of a slow start. I haven't been feeling too well, to which for the next couple of days I will be cancelling those 2 streams and moving them for next week. Everyone in my house is getting a bit sick. So that also means this stream may not last as long as I was hoping, but that's okay. That way I don't butcher my throat already more than it's starting to get. There's not really a straightforward plan for this stream, as I am just gonna go in a whole rant. Though I will try to keep it as D&D only, instead of getting into other media. Other media will be a whole different stream. I may pause here and there because I'm drinking my drink. It's helping. Oh, 1 second, this might be a little loud. I had to move my mic over a bit. Alright. Villains in D&D, they can be very crucial to your storytelling. So there's no need to make them just singular, dimensional, straightforward. A lot of times you can make a character just straightforward. Sometimes that's all you need, is to have something that the party can just hate for little reason besides, oh, they're evil to be evil. Very well. But a lot of the times you will get characters that you can do so much more with. Characters that sit there and make the party question if they are the ones that are in the wrong. To sit there and empathize with parts of why a villain is doing something. You can really just change it up to where the party has confusion on why they're a villain in the first place. A lot of what you can do with that really depends on how you want to DM, or if you're a player, how you want to perceive a villain. A lot of it here and there will be multifaceted. Oh, give me 1 second. I'm gonna put the Be Right Back screen up. There we go. I wanted to take some medicine because of my throat. Now, this may be a bit of a short stream like yesterday because of me not wanting to destroy my lungs. But we'll see where we get there. The other 2 streams for the week, we definitely will push to next week because I really do want to do those. The art stream may be at the beginning of the week, We're probably gonna have another collaboration with Opal. And then Baldur's Gate will happen. We may even shift in and put Hades or Cult of the Lamb. Now, villains are a tool to where you can really change up your game. You can have many villains or even a singular villain. It really depends on your play style. As a player, you can really think about how you want to interact with these villains. Perhaps your character has a long-term standing thing where they want to not only do the storyline, but also investigate this character and figure out what is their purpose, why are they doing this, and so on and so forth. For villains themselves, if you're a DM, don't be afraid to have things that aren't the obvious chaotic evil. You can have very neutral characters, you can have very positive characters that just happen to so be villains in the sense of people that are very neutral or good. Perhaps they have a very straightforward goal or ideal, but just got lost along the way. So right now I'll talk about some of my old homebrew villains where they kind of align different purposes and how you can kind of adjust that for yourself, like if you make your own. So I had a very neutral character, one that at a forefront the party will be like, oh, that is a villain. But he was part of the Fae realm. He was an archfey, so a lot of the people will just be like, oh, archfey must be villain. That's usually the main concept behind the Fae in D&D. Even a lot of satyrs and everything, they will also be trusted to be a villain most of the time, even if they are a party member. Then, this character had a lot of goals. He only entrusted himself to the Fae. Everything he did was for the sake of the Fae. Even if it meant going against multiple cities, if it made dealings with different companies that were very cruel and unyielding, he was also one of those cruel and unyielding businessmen, but for the sole factor that he only was doing it for the sake of the Fae. He would make them different sanctuaries to fall back to. He would sit there and only prioritize those characters. If there was any Fae in the party, he would only acknowledge them. Or even if it's adjacent characters like different dragonborn, dragons, satyrs, anything that has rhyme and reason to interact with the Fae, he only would just bat an eye, but he wouldn't sit there and try to kill them. This character very much was a very risky character. He got attached to one of the party members' sister because it was a whole dealing on protecting them, and then eventually after he kidnapped her, it was almost like a very Hades and Persephone. He was like, oh, okay, I understand this, I understand you. And then later on, before we were able to proceed, he did a very funny thing of giving the party members a free wish. Being an archfey is one of the things he can do. And wish spell is an auto, whatever they wish to do sort of thing. So that was like practically a ticking time bomb. They could ask for anything, to which I know that party had like about at least 5 things they would have used the wish spell on. So For a lot of people, depending, he could be a very good character, even a hero in the eyes of the Fae. But in most other cases, he's perceived as a villain. Then the party would also have conversations at times amongst each other, wondering if he was actually someone they could trust or not, and that's always the fun part. Giving them a way to figure out the reasoning behind what they're doing. It's almost a good thing I don't have a VTuber model now, because I'm just jamming out to this. Okay. Now, vice versa difference, that's also another neutral character. In a lot of cases, this character can be perceived as a villain or as a regular NPC. The first group I played with this character as an NPC, they perceived this character to be a villain of sorts. It was a very chaotic neutral character. So whenever you have a chaotic neutral character, it's very 50-50 if the party will think they're a villain or not. That first party, they absolutely hated the person, to which they had reason to, because different characters had different backgrounds tied to this character ultimately. And so they made their own judgment, roleplay wise, how they felt about the character. The second group wanted to romance the character. So that's a very 50-50 there. In truth, this character has a very pure and true chaotic neutral tendencies. They're very neutral. They only really prioritize things that are for their siblings or for what they deem is respectable. So if they make friends, they only have priority towards those friends. For other characters and NPCs, they couldn't really give a damn. If there was anything that would be sort of a nuisance to them, they wouldn't even budge. They wouldn't even care, just give sort of like a, oh, all in good faith for the greater good, I will save the day. No. If anything, this character had more reason not to help others. They were very selfish, true and true. So you can have those sort of characters to either become friend or foe to the party. Or if you see characters like those as a party member, it's up to you if you want to see them as a villain or not. Though if you do see him as a villain, within good reason, that can develop some interesting stories. Say they're a villain, find out why. Say they're a villain, have an enemy that you can have conflicting moments with. Character development later on where you have to sit there and wonder why you're still fighting. There's a lot you can do, and you could use outside knowledge to be like, okay, well, I know they're supposed to be this way, but I'm gonna act this way for my character. That's probably the only points I'll be like, yeah, using metagame knowledge is okay. Because it's making that decision, like, despite being powerful, I'm not going to be. Then you will have characters that are downright chaotic evil for good reason, no reason, or whichever. I have a character that is downright evil and vile. He is only for his own needs. He is the personification of gluttony. There's a whole family of these beings that were created in this realm to be the personifications of sin, And then they would just sort of absorb that from the realm. Excess magic from the realm had to be absorbed, otherwise it would sort of explode in a way. And this personification of sin sort of broke away from the quote-unquote family. They're not really related. They're only called family because they're all personifications of sin. He had his own desires and needs, being gluttony. So he set forth with goals in mind, and the party would so soon see him as a large villain character. To which, even though you have a very chaotic evil character, you can still have roleplay with that. Opal, for example, even had conversations with this character. Or even if you heard in the improv stream this and that, you can have interactions. You don't have to kill the party as the chaotic evil character. Sometimes it adds a little bit more for the characters in this party to try and figure out this villain, sit there and try to see if there's any good side to him, then come to the realization like, no, there's nothing you can do. This is a true and true evil just to be evil character. And sure, they may have their own reason on why they're evil character, but any of your rhyme and reason doesn't matter to them at all. You sit there and you have characters like Opal or other party members try to make reason with them. Sure, they may act like they're saying reason to you, but not entirely. They pretty much don't care. A lot of the times characters like this sure had a point when they were made or created or went to that point of being evil, that they had that decision, like a turning point, or they were just quite literally born to be like this, for the factor of you needed an awful villain. You even have characters that are not on the evil spectrum, but are mainly just neutral, or even good, that are considered villains. Chaotic good, for example. These are characters that are trying to, by morale, be very good, especially with what things they do. Maybe they want to save a city, but instead they demolish it. In their eyes, they're doing great. In their eyes, they're a hero. But to everyone else, they are a villain. There's a lot you can do messing with the alignment chart, or you don't even have to keep the alignment chart in mind and just make a character to make one. As long as you have a personal goal for the character, there's a lot more wiggle room with what you can do. A party might classify them as a certain alignment down the line, but in all reality, the alignment chart is just sort of a guideline and basis to kind of go off on. In earlier games, when I was learning D&D, my DM would use a sort of, besides inspiration from your DM, we would give good karma and bad karma. And good karma till moments was the same thing as inspiration. It was a free roll, but one of the ways you could get it is if you were doing actions in character that are tried and true, or to what your alignment is. So if I go against metagaming sort of, oh, you should be doing this, you should do this, and instead in character I went with how my character would act based off their alignment and their thoughts, I would get rewarded. You can do that too when you have party members that are brand new to D&D. It kind of gives them good points for trying to get into character. Of course, don't punish them if they can't get into character. Some people want to play but aren't into the whole role-playing thing, which is perfectly fine. As long as they're not being mean to each other about it, I see no reason that it should be gate kept. Sometimes someone who's never done roleplay but wants to play, they can be stubborn at first and then actually end up getting to love the aspect of roleplay and being a character in D&D. You can even run a campaign where even the players are the villains to the story, by either if they know it or they don't. Sometimes I'll have players that want to do a chaotic evil run. Most of the time they never went through based on the fact that they didn't really have the effort there. They had the idea and they're like, oh, that'd be hilarious, let's do it. But then it would fall through because they're like, oh, I actually don't want to act chaotic evil though. Because sometimes that can get a little much, especially if they don't like to really listen to your guidance. They kind of just want to do whatever in game or be kind of jerks to other players. That's when I'm like, all right, we're not playing this campaign. I really draw the line when people start bullying other players and it's not even a character thing. Then you can have it where the players, again, like the chaotic good character, they think they're doing well in the world. They really do. They think they're being a hero. They think they're saving a day. But perhaps they're a villain in someone else's story. And you can always have it that they never learn that, and it's only a closing statement in the end. Or perhaps the characters start to come to that realization of, are we the bad guys? Then a lot of the times when you have villains being different creatures in your game, it doesn't have to be a very humanoid and functioning, language giving being. It could literally just be different characters and monsters and creatures that most of the time the party will only see as ingredients or reward. Unless your character has to speak with animals, most of the time they will just deem something as a hunt or a kill. So you can change that up. You can have it to where, oh, you see, we can't do that. They start to come to that realization that maybe they shouldn't do something. Or maybe, yeah, come to that realization that either they're the villain, or maybe they should reconsider deeming this creature as a villain. It really depends on how you want to present that, giving them that inner turmoil moment of, oh, well, you just killed a creature that was there for you. How does that feel? Another character was quote-unquote siblings with that one chaotic evil character I mentioned that was personification of gluttony. This one would be the personification of envy. They are a chaotic neutral character on the fact that they understand what their position is in the realm. They know that they're basically a trash bin for all of these negative magics in the realm. At the same time, they have done things that can be considered as a villain, because she would have outbursts and angry moments and this and that and cause mischief and a little bit of destruction. But most of the time she doesn't really care for doing goodness to the realm. And because of that, when a party member would ask her for their age and sort of ask like the whole, oh, well, you have a lot of abilities, you have a lot of magic, can you give us some aid? This character would have outright refused. And that automatically would have made them a villain in the eyes of the party members. They would sit there and question the character. They may even yell at the character saying, oh, you're so unforgiving. And even then, that gives more reason for this character being seen as a villain to act like one. Like, oh, well, you see me that way, so I might as well go with it, huh? It can be a very large moment for if you want a character to choose a path of villain or a hero. Sometimes how the party interacts with a character that's supposed to be neutral could make that decision for you as a DM. And in the end, you could be like, well, they were neutral, but you made them this way. Either good or bad is up to you. For party members, most of the time in my experience, any neutral characters are usually seen as villain, because the factor that neutral characters will be selfish in what they do. They don't really go out of their way for one thing, or if they do, it's with reason towards themselves or those that they care about. And that's what bothers party members. Now, especially when you have characters that are very powerful, they can also be seen as villains. Even a lot of patron deities, or patrons and deities I should say, within D&D are considered villainous to an extent because of the selfish factor, because they will rescind their aid at any given notice, they will take back their blessings. So it's a very interesting concept when party members start seeing them as so, to which you can even have that as a storytelling factor. Perhaps these patrons or deities or anything that helps the party members act the way they are or be who they are, perhaps they do go mad, and perhaps they do go villain mode. There's a lot you can do with that. Just that coffee. Now, there are some characters already within rulebooks that are considered villain characters, but at the same time, much like yesterday's conversation, you don't really have to go by the solidified version of this character based off of the rulebooks. So for someone like Curse of Strahd campaign, for Strahd, the vampire overlord that keeps you all there, he is usually considered chaotic evil, especially because you were all doomed there. I won't spoil story stuff, but you can have various outcomes when it comes to Curse of Strahd campaign. You can choose to only see him as the main villain. You can see him as a villain, but start to give him good brownies. Good brownie points. You may get to a point where you even appreciate him. Some people I know try to romance him. And then there's other characters in the Curse of Strahd campaign that are very neutral. They're not necessarily evil. They have their reason why they do things they do. They're seen heroes in other eyes, or they think they're being a hero, when a lot of the cases, a lot of these characters may be seen as villains. Like there was a character in there when I was a party member. We all thought that this character was a villain. We thought they were evil. We thought the things they were doing were bad. So we fought them. And we learned they definitely were not a villain. We didn't kill them. If anything, it was a possibility that we could have died as well. And in the end, we chose to knock them out. Afterwards, we found out, I wouldn't say we figured out they were a hero-based character, but more so, oh, they're a very neutral character and they do what they do for a reason. Why don't we make this an agreement between us? A very, if you help us against Strahd, we will help you rid yourself of Strahd. So that was a very odd factor for us. Ooh, love an eyelash. Then there are other characters in the Curse of Strahd campaign that are outright evil anyways. Because it's a very gothic horror vampire sort of campaign, there's a lot of difficulties and potential for evil in it. Especially if you have a lot of good-based characters. Like me having a chaotic good Twilight cleric. You might have mentioned, or you might have heard me mention Maverick when it came to a couple different streams. I know me and Opal did a bit of Maverick improv roleplay on our improv script reading. And even Maverick, in a way, despite being a cleric, could have been seen as a villain to other people. And a lot of it is for the selfish factor when you have a character that wants to be selfish for specific reasons. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. And honestly, it's okay if other NPCs or party members or the DM is like, oh, this character is the villain now. But definitely, if you're a DM and you want to turn a party member into a villain, definitely have that talk with them outside of the game. It's very good to have consent for changing characters. Even if it comes to things like lycanthropy and a bunch of different elements. It's good to have that conversation, because despite them fucking around and finding out, you can also be a decent person and DM about it. You can always think up story reasons why something hasn't happened. You don't have to go through with it and push it on the person despite them not really wanting that. Then you'll have different characters in D&D that are very straightforward villains. You can even have villains that are dramatic about it, saying, oh, poor heroes. That sort of deal. You can have a Kafka. Really? Though I won't try to derail and start talking about other villains in other media, because that will definitely be another stream. Because I have many characters I enjoy across different media, from games, books, cinema. That will definitely be a longer stream as well. I just didn't want to bleed that into this, because this was a very only D&D thing. I will definitely have to end up cutting this short today, because I'm feeling it from talking and really want to start the coffee. Hopefully all goes well and I'm all healthy by next week. Sometimes when I get sick, I'm sick longer than I wish to be. To make up for no streams, I'll at least post some little art videos, little work in progress shorts at the very least. Or maybe I find some more Baldur's Gate stuff and post. We'll see. We will see. For the most part, I'll be resting. I think that will be it for the villains in D&D. There's a lot you can do with characters in D&D. And if you can't do it, if it's a very straightforward, by the rulebook sort of game, you don't have to play it. You can always try to find a homebrew one. Homebrews are the very wiggle room aspect of being able to figure things out and experiment. And eventually you'll get to a point where you really enjoy it, if that's the case. Alright. I will be going ahead and ending it here for today. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you to the people that watch the videos of the stream despite not being on stream. I really appreciate it. Leave some comments if you have some other villains in D&D comments. Has there been any interesting villains you've interacted with as either DM or party? Rather, I should say, you played as, if you're a DM. Let me know, because I'll definitely read them, because I like hearing about people's experiences in D&D. I'll definitely try to reply in a timely manner. And I believe that will be it. So, have a wonderful rest of the day, or good night, or good morning, however time zone it is for you when you see this. Again, I will be taking the last 2 streams and moving them to next week. In their placement, I may post some little art work in progress shorts. I'll figure it out. But I'm definitely gonna take some medicine and go lay down. Have a good one, my little travelers.